All right, we are now live. Welcome, everybody. My name is Ernestine Lyons, and of course, you know me as the host of Quick to Politic, the social commentary show, where we talk about entrepreneurship, politics, the world, and everything in between. So, I am being joined here today by a wonderful guest, Amanda Lewan, and I feel like I'm always saying your last name wrong, and it's say it for us.
No, you did it right, Amanda
Okay.
Lewan.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So, without further ado, just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a writer and an entrepreneur. My company is called Bamboo. We're a co-working space, and we build community, really for founders and creatives. We're in downtown Detroit in the Julian C. Madison building, and then we just opened our second location in Royal Oak. So I'm super passionate about everything community, helping people on their journey, all that kind of good stuff. And Ernestine, I have to say, I'm excited to be on the show. I think you've been just so wonderful. I feel like I've gotten to know you more during COVID in this strange way because you're just so accessible. I see you out there, I see your show. You've come to like a bunch of our bamboo events and you're always connecting and supporting others. So I really appreciate that energy and just wanted to thank you for doing all that during COVID and being such a
Oh,
support.
thank you. Thank you so much for saying that because, sometimes I feel like, oh, okay, well, we have to uplift each other. And in some ways, I kind of like being able to be in multiple places, to go to multiple events, because sometimes I would have to like, and I think we've all had to do this, like make that decision, which event or thing, or especially us in the networking and small business ecosystem, it's trying to figure out, okay, well, what thing am I going to have to make the decision to go to instead? You could be at, multiple things. And I think it does create that accessibility, like you said. And so, Amanda is super, super amazing. And I was always running into her in the small business ecosystem here in the Metro Detroit area. And, so you're also a writer and you've got this mission to unite the region. And, you founded Bamboo, and then now you guys have expanded to Royal Oak and have this great new location. And I'm just really, really excited for the work you do and to be able to pick your brain and, kind of sit down one on one because that's one thing I've always like, I want to sit down with her and do a one on one and just kind of talk. And it just never happened in the real world. So I'm glad that the virtual world has kind of brought us together in this way.
Yeah,
So,
now have more space to intentionally connect, which is kind of nice too, right?
right, right, right. And so it just kind of makes it easier. So, all right. Well, I also want to let folks know that if you are out there viewing on Facebook, feel free to, drop comments into the chat and ask questions. But we are going to get right into the nitty gritty here. All right. Like I said, you went from being a journalist to a founder of a company, which is Bamboo Detroit, and just a bamboo brand now. And how did you trade one form of storytelling to another form of story selling, which is, empowering, entrepreneurs, startups, folks in the tech area, and people who want workspaces and that communal ideating. Tell us a little bit more about that transition and how it happened and, why.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I think telling stories for me is creating more empathy and more connection in the world. And I think we do that through community as well at Bamboo. And so when you hear someone's story, whether you're reading it in a newspaper or you're listening to their journey as a founder, you get to understand them more as human and you sort of see the person behind the fancy title. So I think for me, like the end result is the same, whether I'm writing a story or I'm at an event, hosting an event at Bamboo, we're hearing from one another and we're like connecting on this like deeper human level. And so that's been really fun to do. I think I just found different mediums or channels to do that. I always love this quote that Oprah said. She said that you have to connect your purpose with your personality. And my purpose is definitely to bring people together and unite them and create more empathy. And I think I just found a good channel through Bamboo to do that. I was always the connector in my group of friends. I was always the one who took care of everybody. I'm a bridge builder. I want different groups of people to see each other and connect in different ways. And so I think it's the type of company that I started that helped me make that an easy transition, right? So yeah, that's my answer.
All right, thank you. And I love that you said, with the Oprah quote, like purpose and personality and, just kind of connecting to folks on a human level. Because I think sometimes a lot of what happens in the business world becomes very transactional. And, that's something that, our president and CEO of Build Institute, she talks a lot about connecting to people on that human level and, kind of just not so being transactional all the time, but also relationship building. And I think that's something that I think I kind of learned the long way. I'm not going to say the hard way, but I learned the long, drawn out way that in the Metro Detroit area, it is more about relationships. And I think that we do have to, get to know folks and, kind of sell their stories. And I think you've done like a really great job of doing that with the work at Bamboo. So I just kind of want to pivot off of that and talk a little bit more about just the future of incubators, because, think spaces, and I keep coining terms, are kind of like, Tech Town, Build, Bamboo, ProsperUS. And, there are places in the Metro Detroit small business ecosystem that provide folks with this opportunity to collaborate. I mean, pre-pandemic, but then also we've created, and I think you guys have been really innovative as well, of being able to provide a virtual space for people to continue to, meet and ideate. So how would you personally want to push for more policy change? Because, I am a politician and, this is a political commentary show. How would you change policy around entrepreneurship, underestimated business owners, and new business, and how we in Lansing advance the levels of government and advanced levels of government really do more to create jobs and redefine how we create jobs, meaning entrepreneurs are not just these folks who, hang out at think tanks and also like tech places.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're the policy expert, so I'll let you come up with the solutions. I will just share a couple things that I think about all the time, right? I think about access to capital and how difficult it is. And like literally day one of the shutdown, we got pre-approved for a large line of credit prior to COVID. And we said no. We were like, you know what? Maybe we don't need it. We're doing pretty good. And then COVID hit. We go back to that bank and they said, sorry, you're closed down right now. We can't do that for you. And, even later, I would say when we applied for an EIDL loan, we didn't hear back for months and months and months. And that was in the past administration and during a crisis. And so, I'm sure there were reasons, but we ended up going to our senator and asking for help and finally got an answer and got our loan, which was just a huge relief, navigating sort of these like ups and downs caused, I think, by this year. But it really made me more aware of, I think, a lot of women and underestimated founders. Underestimated founders is a term I borrow from Arlen Hamilton. She's a pretty well-known VC who invests in women, people of color, LGBT founders. She sees them as underestimated, right? We don't always have access to capital, or we might not be the ones getting as much in the ecosystem, but we work hard and we rely on cash sales. We're often hustling, right? So the way I ran Bamboo was by growing it slowly year over year, getting more sales, and not learning all the rest of this space. So I think access to capital is one of the biggest things, specifically for women and underestimated founders. That's why I've been excited to see some bigger announcements like the $1 billion fund for Black-owned businesses that I think TCF Bank was putting together with Portia Powell, who is fantastic, and I admire her time. I think we just need big solutions, and we need to move the needle forward more to make sure that small business owners and startups have this access to capital. So that to me is that's something I think about a lot as a business owner. And then there's, I'm sure, a ton of other policy, challenges we have that we have to figure out now. But, I'm sure you've got a pulse on a lot of those things too.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I'm always pushing for, just lawmakers to consider things. Like I think for a very long time, people were like, let's attract a big, giant corporation to create jobs for people. But instead, you've got, single moms who are, creating things in their basement, candles, and but they need assistance. They don't know where to go. And I think that assistance doesn't have to come in the form of financial assistance. I think it could be wraparound services and just kind of pointing somebody and encouraging them. And, I love that you host, the pitch contests and things that happen at Bamboo. And, so it's an opportunity for somebody to expose themselves, go back to the drawing board, and then to, just kind of restructure. And so that kind of leads into, one of the other questions that I had around women in entrepreneurship. So, you wanted to talk, about building diverse communities and, what are some ways that we can kind of tackle, just exposing the kind of investment gaps that we see with women in particular, and then minorities, minority-owned companies, to be able to get a seat at the table.
Yeah, I think those are big questions. And I think about it on a micro level. So if anyone is a founder is listening and you're women or underestimated, I think you have natural strengths that you lean on. Like mine was, generating cash flow and like growing that way. But you need to sort of learn the rest and sort of find out your blind spots. And I think lean on the ecosystem here in Detroit. As you just said, we have Build, we have ProsperUS, we have TechDown. There's so many great resources and support. One thing that I learned from the most is other mentors and other advisors and people at Bamboo. Really being around other business owners is so helpful. If you're that mompreneur at home making candles and selling them, like your example, you feel isolated a lot of times. And so you can't, or you may not even have the flexibility to get out of your house and go to those networking events. Now, with a lot of things virtual, there is a way, there's a little bit more access. And so you should take advantage of those things, I think. And at Bamboo, we do a lot of virtual events like the pitch meetup night you said, so that you can get out there and start still putting your business idea in front of other people, taking that feedback, learning, growing. As you mentioned, my background was in writing. So I actually have a master's in English and creative writing. I never took a business class. I actually thought business sounded boring. Didn't think I would end up being an entrepreneur, sort of stumbled into it. But I took advantage of a ton of these great resources available, often for free or low cost in Metro Detroit. And that helped me tremendously to get to the point that we're at now at Bamboo.
That's pretty awesome. And I think sometimes we look at folks who are in positions where they're founders and they're expanding their businesses, and they're like, oh, well, maybe she never went through this, but you changed, you shifted gears. And so I think that's something that folks, when they have questions about building a strong business, they'll kind of look to, all right, how do I find people to pitch to? And more often than not, people really don't know what goes into telling the story of their business. They'll be like, oh, okay, well, I generate so many in sales, and they'll know their numbers, or maybe they'll be weak in their numbers, but, they tell a story and then they don't give us their why. And, so how important is it for new businesses to be able, who are seeking to either grow or scale or launch, to have their pitch down pat, and what, kind of advice would you offer? And follow-up question, on venture capital and investment, but I think I'm going to ask that in a minute, because I think this is definitely going to be good advice coming from Amanda Lewan.
Like kind of said it. I think a good pitch is someone who's personable and authentic in themselves, right? So like you said, getting to your why. I was coaching this student this morning who was working on a pitch for a business model. And she's making a product. And I had asked her, well, why are you doing this? Why do you care about it? And ask yourself that question a couple times, and you'll get to the deeper motivation. Hers was women's empowerment. And like, that's great. That's unique to you and your journey and what you want to bring forth in the world. Your product or your business is just one channel for bringing that mission forward, right? And then you also, sometimes I hear pitches and people forget to talk about how they're actually making money. Like they're so focused on this high level, big vision product that they want to build. First time founders focus on products. Second time founders focus on a market channel, like launching a product with a key strategic partner so that they can get it out right away and move faster. And I think early founders too, or first time founders or someone transitioning to being a founder for the first time, often we're afraid of telling other people our ideas. We think people will copy it. Most people will not copy your idea. Most people will not care about it enough. It could
Right.
be an idea.
Or follow through, or even do it the way you would do it. So I always tell people that too. It's like, no, nobody's going to do exactly what you had in mind for your business. So share that idea.
And you learn by operating it and by getting out there, you learn to be confident and build that skill set up. So you aren't afraid. Like sure, you can try to copy Bamboo, but you won't have our unique values, our brand, our culture, our people, our programming touch. Like those are all really like our secret sauce of how we operate. And you starting a co-working space, if you were in my industry, will have your totally own version of doing that, right? And so we also kind of have to think more abundantly about our businesses and not so with like a scarcity mindset. And it's hard to do early on because you may not have that revenue just yet. You may be still really early and growing. So I think the best pitches and the best stories, be authentic, be yourself, be honest about why you're doing what you're doing. And do know your numbers, like you said, and know how to tell people how you're making money, or, think about those channels and those other the way you can get out there in the market faster. Product market fit is one of the hardest things to do. I was just listening to another podcast on this, and someone called it product market pull. So letting your customers sort of pull you in that direction with your product until you find that right fit for it, which I thought was a really interesting way to think about it. So that you're not just pushing it into this market, you're letting the customers guide you to building something that's really going to stick and be of value.
Okay, got it. So it's be authentic, honest, genuine, and just make sure you know your stuff and know your story and your why. Okay, got it. And I hope everybody out there listening take notes. So I do also want to kind of pivot back to venture capitalists. So you've got your pitch down pat, and you know your business model. You've used a business model canvas, and you've maybe gone through courses in this small business ecosystem. So what do venture capitalists really look for, besides unicorns? And I do think that sometimes we as particularly Black women entrepreneurs, I think that we're the fastest growing, group. And, I've heard so many stories about, nobody even gave me a chance. Nobody wanted to listen to me. Nobody really thought I was going to have it together. And I went into a room full of venture capitalists and nobody wanted to hear it. So, what are venture capitalists and investors really looking for when it comes to businesses?
And there's a lot to unpack there. I'm sure those experiences happen, and the numbers of women and minority getting venture capital, it's 2 or 3% out of the whole industry. And that's heartbreaking, but hopefully starting to change. There are many more funds coming out specifically addressed at changing that, or specifically doing a better job at having a thesis to be inclusive. Small, but I think making an impact. So one, I think you need to decide, is venture capital the route for you? There are many ways you can get capital. You could bootstrap it and do grow slowly by sales. You can crowdfund, you can get loans, you can get grants, depending on the type of business you are to get launched and going. You go to venture capital if you're going to scale very quickly, or you have a product that needs a large amount of investment to grow. Like my husband started Rocket Fiber, and to build an internet infrastructure, he needed to raise capital. He couldn't do it, small scale. At Bamboo, we practice more the lean startup model, which is start small with an idea, get feedback, get your first customers, and then iterate and improve along the way. That's a much more capital light way to start a company and grow. When you're going to take on venture capital, they want to see you scale quickly to get to that $1 billion valuation. That may not be for everybody or for you right now, and that's okay. Now, if it is, and you're sure it is, then polishing your pitch as much as you can, building a network, and finding investors who look like you. They're out there. There are Black women investors. There are white women investors. There are all kinds of women and underestimated founders starting to get more into that. I follow a ton of investors on Twitter. There's Backstage Capital, there's the Hustle Fund. There's a lot of funds out there that are looking to invest in diverse founders, and they're looking outside of places like New York and Silicon Valley even more now that we've had this unfortunate pandemic that forced us to all be virtual and at home. Those people are more accessible too. Another great local resource is Invest Detroit. They often do office hours or reach out to talk and get feedback on your pitch deck before you go out there. I've not raised venture capital, so those are just my insights from what I've observed. So take it with a grain of salt, but I think I want people listening to know that it's hard. The numbers, if you look at the numbers and think like, wow, very few people like me have gotten there, I still want to believe you can do it and overcome these barriers too, and learn from those who are doing it and those who are out there. And people listening, if you're investing, like knowing that this might be an area to invest in and help us diversify, right? Because part of the problem is not having those diverse investors who are connected to a diverse community. In Silicon Valley, it's the same group of people and the same group of funds, and they're often white males from Stanford, right? And that's how that problem, I think, grew. So a lot to unpack there. That's just a few thoughts on how to think about it from my perspective.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think that even it kind of gets very, macro, because, I think that it even goes down to like certain socioeconomic statuses and levels, aren't necessarily going to be exposed to the same things when, reaching out. And, I know a lot of folks, I think through Bamboo was the first time I've ever heard of Series A as far as like investments and things of that nature, and just knowing where your company stands. So I think that, there are a lot of barriers. And I think that, policy, that's one of my things that, focusing on policy to make sure that it is inclusive, it is accessible, and that everybody has, a way to, get access to this. So I think this is the age we're living in. And in the 20s, we're going to see a lot more of this. And I don't know, I feel like January was all about investing on Quick to Politic and money and wealth management. And we talked a lot about how, now with a lot of things like Robinhood and, all of these like trading apps, these kind of things that once seemed elite and only accessible to the few, now are in the hands of, the many. And I think that's something that also entrepreneurship is actually teaching us, that, starting that business and, taking it to the next level, it is accessible. You can do this, and you can be anybody. So the world is changing, and I'm glad that, you're here to help guide folks. And so as we wrap things up, I do want to ask one last question about, business and collaborating. So, when folks are looking to grow a business, is collaboration as, in terms of like collaborating with another business and trying to, reach across brands to share other, information about brands, if you guys are in similar fields. I've done a couple collaborations with, OLA languages, or at least working on those kind of things with, Ling Global. And so, how big is that hype around, businesses collaborating? And is there any, merit to it? Does it actually work? And what are kind of like the returns that people actually get from these collaborations?
That's great. I guess, do you mean broadly, or do you mean like, sometimes I think of what you're saying, I think of an influencer marketing too, right? Where you're like promoting and cross promoting. I would think of partnering with other brands if you're both aligned in the value that you want to give to the same audiences or to new audiences. You'll create value somehow together. If you're talking like the whole influencer world, I feel very out of touch.
No. I think it kind of like more broadly, because, there's so many folks that you hear like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it's like so many small businesses, especially because I love lipstick and beauty and makeup. I've noticed that so many different like makeup brands have popped up, and, it's like, in order to kind of avoid that saturated market kind of thing, would it be wise to collaborate and to partner and to, do these kind of things like on a broader level, I think?
Yeah, I think so. I love collaborating. I love partnering, especially for events and programming for us. That's how we do it at Bamboo, typically in person, now in virtual. We partnered with Ford on a special series during the pandemic. And we've partnered with other great resource providers and bringing in VCs for office hours. I think I'm not an expert at everything, so I'd rather lean on other people who are. And if we're all supporting, mostly though, I want to make sure we share the same values. And like you said earlier, are relational and building a relationship together that's beneficial for all. If it's the kind of partnership where it's transactional and you just want me to refer things, I'm really not in that world. That's not, to me, that doesn't fly usually. We have to be growing something together and benefiting on both sides, I think. I wish I could think of more. I think that's a great question. I think I would say go for it and try it, but align your values so that both sides, are benefiting from the partnership really well.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for letting me pick your brain. And, of course, this is, I feel like long time coming, me and you sitting down and, just kind of chatting. Thank you so much for all the work you do. Congratulations on the second location for Bamboo. I need to come take a tour. It's just like amazing to kind of see this growth. And I love the design. Like I've seen the pictures and everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys got the steps with the, the seating and, so thank you so much, Amanda, for coming on. Oh, what was it?
I was going to say, please come, and everyone listening, you're welcome to come drop in. We're open Monday through Fridays, 9 to 5 for tours. Obviously, we wear masks in the common area and we practice social distancing. But Ernestine, also for those working on startup companies, especially in the tech space, go to startupdetroit.co. It's just a free open community website. We have a Slack channel. It's free. It's open to the community to be a part of. And we have our meetup group that you shared earlier with the pitch night. So just throwing that out there, it's another free resource and it's a good way to start connecting with the startup community.
Wow. This is new. Like, has this been around for a while and I just missed out on it? Like
grassroots, like a few community members came together and put it together to make it easier to connect. It's not anything formal, but it's startupdetroit.co.
Awesome. I love how, everybody in the ecosystem plays nice in the sandbox and we're here to share with each other. So, where can folks find you and more information? I feel like you are like a name brand at this point. People know, but in case you have not heard and you've been, of course, living under a rock, where can people find
me? I'm on LinkedIn a lot, Amanda Lewan. You can find Bamboo, bamboodetroit.com. And if you're looking at bambooRoyalOak.com for that other location, we need some brand help. If anyone actually is a web designer listening, I need to get that all organized. But yeah, I'm very accessible online, and you can email me, Amanda@bamboodetroit.com, if anyone wants to connect one-on-one afterwards. Thank you for having me. Thanks for being a voice and an advocate.
Right. All right. And, with Women's History Month, I was so glad to be able to, connect with you because, you're a woman making history and you're uplifting other women. And there's always some sort of woman oriented resource you're sharing out there. So thank you so much. And thank you for being a guest. And so for all of you out there watching, thank you so much. And the listeners, thank you for listening. And also out there on YouTube, thank you. Like, comment, and subscribe. All right. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Okay. And